have a passionate message, the solution to a problem, a new book or product launch, this channel interviews the movers and shakers in their niche. Watch the shows on this channel and be inspired, or connect with opportunities that offer a solution to your problem. PSI TV gives content creators a TV experience, increase their visibility to a new audience, and allow them to demonstrate their authority on their subject matter to you. Beyond ads, biz brands can also have a channel presence with their content. We are the Netflix of biz brands. Dr. Myron Golden is my guest today, and he happens to be my business coach. And today I'm sharing him with you. Now, Dr. Golden has a history of amazing personal success, but even more impressive, he has helped many have 100,000K days in their business. While that's not quite my story yet, I have already had a 25% bump in my sales. But the biggest reason that I'm so excited to share Myron with you is he is a man of God, a solid grasp on the word, a kingdom identity, and an ability to share his success strategies using the word of God in such a way that even unbelieving audiences sign up to receive what he has to share. He is a published author of many books, the most recent of which is B.O.S Moves, and I happen to have my own personally signed copy. Listen, guys, this book, if you get this book, I promise you, you will pretty much get the core of what this man teaches, but you need him too. It goes along with it. You really do. So, good book to get. Now, Dr. Myron Golden, thank you so much for being my guest today.
Absolutely. My pleasure to be here, Judy.
Myron, a couple years ago, about a decade ago, I played a game called Prosperity Game. Mm-hmm. And when I played that game, when the universe delivered $60,000 to me, I stopped playing. At that point in my life, I had never earned any more than that. And I felt like, this is stupid. This is stupid. It felt unreal. I played the game a second time, and I played it all the way through. And when the universe handed me $2 million, I got to the end of the game, but it felt like a fairy tale. Mm-hmm. I played it the third time, and this time I could visualize the $2 million. Now, you talk about the FOS, the failure operating system, mm-hmm. and the SOS, the success operating system. Mm-hmm. Tell us what it takes to rewrite the operating system of our minds.
Well, if you think about an operating system, what is it? An operating system is the main software on a computer that tells the computer what software programs it can run and what software programs it can't run. Most people don't realize all of the things that we put effort into, those run on the conscious level. Those are like software, right? But the genesis, if you will, of success runs on the subconscious level, and it runs behind the scenes. And most people don't realize that success and failure are both automatic. It requires no more effort, per se, to be successful than it does to fail. Mm. People who are succeeding are not trying to succeed any more than people who fail are trying to fail.
Huh.
And what I mean by that is they both happen automatically. It would be virtually impossible for a person who's running a failure operating system to just all of a sudden succeed. It would be almost just as virtually impossible for somebody who's running a success operating system to fail.
So what does it take to override our system?
Okay, so if you think about back in the days when we used to have like Microsoft DOS, right, on our computers, the 8088s and 8086, right? So what happened was every time Microsoft came out with a new update, what would we have to do? We had to recognize what program we had on there. We had to remove it, which took time, and then we had to replace it. So here's what it literally takes to like reprogram your subconscious mind. You need to recognize what operating system you're running. Am I running a failure operating system? Am I running a success operating system? Then if you're running a failure operating system, you need to remove it. And you need to remove all the influences of it. And then you need to replace it with a success operating system. And that's basically just the way that you automatically think. It's interesting. I can have a conversation with somebody, and in a couple of minutes, I can tell which operating system they're running based on the kinds of words they use. If they use words that make them sound like a victim, well, yeah, the weather's terrible. Yeah, this happened to me, that happened to me. Oh, the government's awful. Well, all of those things may or may not be true, but it's their focus on them that has an effect on their lives. It's not the things themselves that have an effect on their lives.
What kind of words would a person with a success operating system throw at you?
Well, it's going to start with I am, right? Because I am, it speaks to your identity, right? And then when you say I am, you don't say what you're not. In other words, or you don't, like, I am stupid is not an I am statement, it is an I am not smart statement, right? Or I am lazy is not an I am statement, it's an I am not diligent statement, right? So we have to make sure we're very intentional what word we say after we say I am, right? Okay, that's first. So then they would say I can instead of I can't. And then they would say either I have or how can I have, not I don't have. So I can speaks to my identity. I am speaks to my identity. I can speaks to my ability, right? Or my activity, and then my I have speaks to my property. If my I am is out of alignment, everything else is going to be out of alignment as well.
So someone watching this show now hears what you've just said, says maybe I am on a failure operating system. So you talk about removing the program. So what does that look like? I mean, because for me, I think I went through that.
So it starts with stop watching the news. Like, stop watching the news. The news is not news. If they were accurately going to call it what it is, they would call it the bad news, right? So stop watching the bad news. Most people don't realize that our subconscious minds are problem-solving mechanisms, right? So if I'm watching a bunch of problems in the world that I have no ability to affect, I am literally wasting energy, brain energy, which, by the way, your brain uses more energy than any other organ in your body. You're wasting all this energy on problems you can't do anything about. And I know when I say stop watching the news, people always come back with, but how am I going to know what's going on in the world?
You'll find
right?
out.
It'll come to you. But my question to those people is, if you can't fix what's going on in your world, how are you going to fix what's going on in the world?
Right. Wow. Okay. So, Myron, you are unapologetic about your faith. Now, I say that to say, I've written a couple of books. They all have that biblical flavor. But I had a friend who had a book, definitely had the biblical flavor, verses and everything. Not much success with sales. He paraphrased that book, took out all references to the Bible, just paraphrased it instead, repackaged it. Boom, it was a big seller. I've never felt that freedom. But I've watched you go into secular environments and unapologetically use the word of God. And I have watched unbelieving audiences still literally absorb like a sponge everything you say.
Sure.
I really want to empower the Christians who may be watching this show today to, how do you do that? How do you do that?
Well, I think it's partially because I don't have an agenda for them. Like, I'm just being who I am. And when I mean I don't have an agenda for them, I believe what I believe. If you want to believe it, good. If you don't want to believe it, good. Like, I am not attempting to persuade somebody to believe what I believe. I'm just expressing what I believe and sharing with what that's done for me. And then when people see that, if they like what I have, then they say, well, maybe I should do what he does, and maybe I should become the kind of person he is. And that's just, it's literally just being yourself, as opposed to being a chameleon where you're trying to be everything to everybody, which is what the world is. The culture hypnotic societal mechanism is programming people to be today, because everybody's afraid of getting canceled. They're afraid that people won't like them. They're afraid that somebody's going to be offended. Like, if you don't like me because of my disposition, that's my problem. But if you don't like me because of my position, that's your problem.
Wow. Okay. Staying entrepreneur mode. Story of Jacob. He leaves home to go to his father-in-law, Laban. He leaves with just a walking stick. By Genesis 30 through chapter 35, we have him returning home with two people groups.
Operations, I don't get in her way. I don't tell her how to do anything. She creates the systems, she creates the SOPs, the whole 9 yards. So I hire somebody who has the spirit of an entrepreneur and the self-direction of an entrepreneur, but they don't know how to necessarily make the cash register ring. Like, I'm really good at the stuff I'm good at, but the stuff I'm terrible at, I am really terrible at it. And operations is one of those things.
So you basically empowered her to do what she does.
Absolutely, and move out of her way. And she's built a team.
So let's go to Jesus and his disciples for a moment. Now, you're my coach.
Okay.
This is my coach, guys. I've always had coaches. This is my coach. I'm sharing them with you.
I have coaches.
And you have coaches. So Jesus had 12 disciples, and they learned from him.
Sure.
before they went out into the world. And I think I wanted to speak to the DIYers who are like, okay, I'll be an entrepreneur. I'm going to wing this thing. They're winging it without any guidance or coaching.
Sure.
Speak to the, because I definitely see the value in having guidance.
The ultimate shortcut in any aspect of life is to have somebody who knows where the outcome that you're seeking is, pay them whatever they charge and do whatever they say. So for me, a coach is the ultimate shortcut. Somebody who's already doing the thing that I would like to do, and all they're going to do is charge me $10,000, $30,000, or even $100,000. I've sat in audiences and I've watched people, coaches, teach, and I thought, whatever that person's selling up to $150,000, I'm buying it, right? And so everybody doesn't have the ability to do $150,000. That's not my point. My point is, like, you have to understand that you're worth it. Here's what's really interesting. People will put $75,000 in a car that gets them from point A to point B, but they don't have $7,500 in their head teaching them how to make money. There are so many people that have more money on their feet than they have in their brain. Like, woe is you if your shoes are more expensive than your library.
Wow. Wow. Talk about library. That is a big expense for me. All right. I do have a couple more questions, and I want to kind of wrap this up. A favorite verse of mine, Myron, is Acts 11:12. I'll read it. The hand of the Lord was with them, and a great number of people trusted and turned to the Lord. We can't really dissect this too much, but the Lord was with them. They weren't doing it alone. There's a great number of people. That's what all of us entrepreneurs want, that great number of people. But the thing is that trust. The great number of people trusted them. Trust was the key ingredient to get that conversion turning to the Lord. Speak to how entrepreneurs build trust so that people will have the transformation that they're selling.
So it starts with, number one, trusting yourself. Like the word confidence, the root word of the word confidence is the word confide. Confide means to trust. So if a person doesn't have confidence, they don't trust themselves. So now I have to ask myself, okay, why don't I trust myself? And the reason people don't trust themselves is because they're lacking one of these three things, or all three. They're either lacking clarity, or they're lacking competence, or they're lacking character. What do I mean by that? Well, if I don't know which way to go, I'm going to be unsure. I don't have confidence in where I'm going. So I have to have clarity. That's number one. Number two, I have to have competence. If I don't know how to do something, I'm going to be like, what's next, right? When I tie my shoes, it requires no thought effort. Why? I can do it unconsciously because I've gotten tying shoes down to the level of mastery, right? Most people think that the purpose of learning is knowing. But the purpose of learning is not knowing. The purpose of learning is mastery. What's mastery? Mastery is the ability to execute effortlessly without the use of conscious resources. And you know what's fascinating about that? We're talking about success. Success feels as effortless to people who succeed as failure does to people who fail. Okay, so the third one is character. And character means you have to be a person of your word. You have to do what you say you're going to do even when nobody's watching. You have to be who you purport yourself to be. Your reputation can precede you, but it better not exceed you. Right? It says about Jesus in John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God, the same was in the beginning with God. What does it say later? And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we beheld his glory. So I want you to, this is not an interpretation, this is just an application of that verse, right? The Word became flesh. Your word has to become your flesh. If you say you're going to do something, do it. If your word doesn't become your flesh, it says the Word became flesh and dwelt among us. If your word doesn't become your flesh, you can't dwell among the people you gave it to, you have to hide from them. So your word becomes your flesh, and then what happened? They beheld his glory. So when your word becomes your flesh, then people will believe your story and behold your glory.
Wow. Wow. Didn't I tell you guys, this man has a grasp on a practical grasp on the Word of God. The Word of God is not for both of us, not just a book, you know, a history book, a nice read, some good stories, the feel-good thing you do on a Sunday morning.
It's basic instructions before leaving earth. It's like literally the instruction manual for all things good in life. God is a God of success. And when I say everything God ever created, he created it to succeed. He created fish to swim, they swim. Birds to fly, they fly. The sun to shine, it shines. The wind to blow, it blows. Like, he created human beings to dominate.
Yes.
We are the only things God created that don't max out our potential. Why? Because we have a choice. We have a choice, and we have, unfortunately, we tend to believe our eyes. But see, there's a verse in Scripture. It doesn't say it like this. I'm going to give the Myron Golden translation, paraphrase, and then I'm going to tell you what the verse says. I can't believe my eyes because my eyes tell lies. Where's that? We walk by faith, not by sight. And so doubt is created in the eyes. Faith is created in the ears. Faith cometh by hearing, and hearing by the word of God. So it's literally the words that you hear. It's the words that you say that create that level of faith, that level of confidence that gives you the ability to take actions that you couldn't take before you heard those words.
Yeah, the secular word probably has a name it and claim it.
Speak things into existence.
Yes, yeah,
all that
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But we won't even bother with them. All right. All right. Now, Billy Graham said, "There's nothing wrong with men possessing riches. The wrong comes when riches possess men."
Sure.
Now, personally, Myron, I wrote the check to have you as my coach when you said, this was what made me write my check. Mm-hmm. Because you said, don't use the people and love the money.
Right. Use the money.
Use the money and love the people. And even better yet, use the money to love the people.
Come on now. That's what I'm talking about.
That was it for me. That's when I knew that you were the mentor, the one I needed to copy, the one I needed to follow that blueprint. So I found that in the Christian community, there is two polar opposites of what they think. There are some that wear poverty like a badge of honor. Mm-hmm. And they'll even tell you, well, Jesus didn't have a stone to lay his head or blah, blah, blah. And then they'll have the others that just think that they should do no work, kneel, pray, and the Lamborghini is going to drop in their driveway. Now, PSI has multiple groups, but the foundation group is Profitable Stewardship, Inc. The TV side, guys, is Profitable Social Influence. But the headquarters is Profitable Stewardship, Inc. It's based on, you kind of alluded to it, the fact that we're not maxing out our potential.
Exactly.
The stewardship, the piece that, what I found fascinating in the story of the talents is one who had two made two more. It didn't say what he did to make the two more, but we have this prophet mandate. Speak to the prophet mandate and those who think that they can just go back to the grave and say, hey, God, here it is.
Yeah, so interestingly enough about the parable of the talents, and a talent was a measure of money. It wasn't like a talent to dribble a basketball. It was a measure of money. And he gave it to the exchanger and he doubled it, right? The person who got two, here's what's really fascinating about that story. The person who got two turned it into two more, got four. The person who had five turned it into five more, got 10. The person who got one was afraid of losing the one. Now here's what's fascinating. The person who had five times as much to lose. You know what I learned from that? The person who has the least to lose seems to be the most afraid to lose it. And the people that have the most to lose are the least afraid to lose it. And so risk aversion, avoiding risk is dangerous. That's one of the greatest risks of all. You want to manage your risk. You don't want to avoid risk. So we have to recognize, first of all, that we have the potential. What the first thing that God ever said to a human being was, be fruitful. By the way, a fruit is a living organism whose seed is in itself, which means produce on the outside based on what I put on the inside of you, right? Do multiply. Multiply means to increase. Do replenish. Replenish means to fill up. Do subdue. Subdue means to trample down anything that tries to stop you. And then watch this. Have dominion. If you don't do the other ones, you can't do the last one, right? Mm-hmm. And so God made man to rule over the earth. And when I say man, I'm talking about men and women, because God called their name Adam, which means man. Adam later called her name Eve. God didn't call them Adam and Eve. Okay? So what's really interesting is God made humans to dominate the earth. Well, you said about maxing out your potential. Here's what's fascinating. Money is one of the very few areas in which people don't even attempt to max out their lives. If you ask somebody, how much money do you want to make? They say, not that much, just enough to be comfortable. But if you ask them, okay, so how long do you want to live? Nobody says, not that long, just long enough to be comfortable. If you ask people, how smart you want your children to be? No, not that smart, just smart enough to be comfortable. Nobody says that about any area of how healthy do you want to be? Yeah, just healthy enough to be comfortable. But when it comes to money, because we're afraid of what we think other people will think, we say, not that much, just enough to be comfortable. But we've got to all get to the place in our lives. If you are going to fulfill your purpose, if I'm going to fulfill my purpose, we have to get to the place in our lives where we have nothing to lose because we realize it's not ours anyway. We have nothing to hide because we're not doing things in the dark that we're not doing in the light. We have nothing to prove. I don't need somebody to think something about me. right? And we have nothing to fear because we know God's in control.
The nothing to prove one is one of my biggest. Well, I had to give two hoots about what anyone thinks.
Exactly.
All right, now we're coming to time crunch here, so I do have a very important question I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
The Bible has a pricing model that I think is very fascinating in the sense that the concept of Jubilee, when a Jew was going to sell their property, they weren't selling it like, Zillow says it's worth X amount of dollars based on what the next neighbors are doing. The Jubilee price was how many harvests can they get? In other words, the outcome. What is the projected outcome from doing this thing? And the more the price was higher when the potential output or the potential outcome was higher.
Yeah.
But a lot of Christians, especially a lot of entrepreneurs, but especially a lot of Christians, have a problem pricing.
Yeah.
And they don't understand this concept of the promise of the outcome.
Well, but it's also, they don't even understand money from a biblical perspective, right? And what I mean by that is they don't understand wealth from a biblical perspective. Most people think wealth is wickedness and poverty is piety. But see, wealth is not only not evil, it's not inherently evil, it's not inherently neutral, like most, wealth is neither good nor bad, it's just money's neither good nor bad, it's just neutral, it makes you more of what you already are. Well, it may make you more of what you already are, but it is not neutral and it is not evil. Wealth is inherently good. How do I know that? Well, because there are some laws of biblical interpretation. One of them is called the law of first mention, because God doesn't change. So however God mentions something the first time he mentions it, that's his original design for that thing. Well, what's fascinating is there were only two people in the Garden of Eden. There were no stores. There was nothing for sale. There was nothing to buy. Food was free. But yet God told us in Genesis chapter 2, verse 11 and 12, that he put gold there.
Gold.
And he didn't just tell us that he put it there. He said there's gold in that land, and the gold of that land is good.
Good.
Oh, so wealth is good because God says it's good. And in Proverbs it tells us the blessing of the Lord, it maketh rich, and he addeth no sorrow to it. So you can be rich without sorrow, but you have to do it God's way. And so this whole idea that because you're a follower of Christ, you have to be pitiful poor, that is, it's a very Catholic idea, but it's not a biblical idea. And so it passed down from Greek mythology to Roman mythology to Catholicism to Protestantism, and it's just lasted as a false doctrine that people believe. Satan is a god of lack. God is a god of abundance. Indeed.
Well, I'm 50 plus. I know you're in the
I'm 60 plus.
But, I don't have a life I plan to retire from.
I don't either. I have no desire to retire.
That. So, Myron, where are you in 10 years, potentially? God willing, you live to see that.
Yeah, where am I? When you say where am I?
No, what's
my life look like?
The golden enterprise going to look like in 10 years?
In 10 years, we will be not just coaching entrepreneurs and business owners, but we will be coaching governments on how to improve the quality of their government using kingdom principles. That's where we're headed.
You mentioned the governments, you hope to do governments.
Yes, to teach them kingdom principles.
Right.
Because the kingdom of God is the ultimate government. In fact, the Bible is not a book about religion, it's a book about government. It's a book about a king, a kingdom, a royal family, and the culturalization of a foreign land. That foreign land is called earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, I've been sharing Myron with you, but you know what? You can have access to Myron too. He has a coaching program, an introduction, if you will, called the Make More Offers Challenge. And he runs it, I think, every month. I've been through it. It's powerful enough on its own, but I got a taste of it, and so I committed to more with him because he's just that awesome. But I'm going to invite you to consider taking the Make More Offers Challenge, because if you don't make more offers, you can't make more sales. It's just as simple as that. I love that. Is it where you have going on no challenge, no champion? I saw that. Yeah. I love that. That was so cool. I may have to get that shirt. Myron, is there anything else that you would like to share?
Yes, I'd like to say that everybody can have everything that God has for them, but first you have to recognize who you are. Here's what I'm going to leave everybody with. The very first thing that God said to a human being was, be, do, have. You know what that means? Don't be, can't do, can't have. Be a little, do a little, have a little. Be a lot, do a lot, have a lot. Be, do, have. It'll change your life.
A lot of people don't want the do a lot part.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the Make More Offers Challenge, the website should be up somewhere for you guys to connect with that. Make More Offers Challenge. I am sharing my coach with you. I would love to keep him a big secret, but I can't. Just like the word of God, we just can't. We just have to share it.
Share the good news.
Why? Because I want you to have success too, guys. I want you to experience what I'm experiencing. I want you to enhance your game. Be more, do more, have more. And I'm sharing Myron with you. He can take it. He can take it. He's found a way to scale so that he can serve more and more and more. And he's going to teach you how to do the same too. So the website should be up for you. And also, guys, B.O.S Moves, because that's what we're going to end up making. Some serious B.O.S moves.
Absolutely.
Myron, it has been so awesome to have you as my guest today.
My pleasure.
I want to tell you this. Of the many things I've done in my career, I told someone yesterday, she wanted me to, I said, honey, what is happening tomorrow is for me the most important thing I've done in my career. And it's not whether I've met people who are, more important than you, because I've been around government officials that are running the country. But for me, Myron, in terms of my respect for you, who you are, what you bring to the table, the fact that you just have this grasp on the word of God, that you share it boldly and unapologetically. For me, there is no king, there is no president, there is no Tony Robbins, there's nobody in my world right now that commands the awe and respect that I have for you. There's just nobody. He is that person. I'm just telling you guys. And I don't give compliments easily. And I'm a bull in a china shop, guys. I'm not an easy person to deal with. But this man that I'm sharing with you today, I promise you, you will thank me. You will thank me. PSI TV. Thank you so much, Myron, for being my guest today.
My pleasure.
It was so awesome to have you. Thank you.
Always great to have a conversation with you.